Okay, so I want to start with your life before all of the health stuff really came into play. So what was your life like? What was your relationship with health? What were your goals in life? Where were you at before everything started?
Yeah, so this is a really good starting point because it's a very drastic difference between where I was and then what happened. So basically, the start of it all was I was living in Italy. I was basically the healthiest I'd ever been. My gut was super healthy. I was lean. I was working out 3 to 4 times a week. I was doing Pilates. I was doing weightlifting. I was walking all the time, and then I also had been on the birth control pill, which kind of
Hmm,
plays into it for about 5 years.
gotcha.
And it was about 2 years ago in October that I got this nudge to get off of it. I had watched like a ton of podcasts and a lot of research about how bad the pill can be for you.
Hmm.
So I decided to get off of it. I was like, I'm gonna go natural. I want to see what my body is like in its natural state because your hormones can completely alter who you are in a sense.
Yeah.
So I went off of it, and right away I noticed a lot of like hormonal imbalance. Like my skin was super dry, and then I was getting like very intense mood swings, right?
Hmm.
Because you're basically like detoxing from something that you've been on for 5 years. So your body's like, what is happening to me? So basically, I was going insane, but I thought I was fine. And like I said, I was living in Italy, so you're walking every day. You are eating foods that actually nourish your body. And it's interesting because before I went to Italy, I didn't realize how inflamed I was, like
Okay.
in the US in
Yeah.
college. And then when I saw like how healthy and like chiseled I was, I was like, okay, like that wasn't normal how I looked
Yeah.
before. And so that is kind of when everything started shifting in my body, was getting off the pill. And then I would say about 5 months later, I I did feel very like confident. I felt like myself for the first time in years.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, which is interesting. It was kind of like taking off a mask that the pill kind of puts on you. And then I all of a sudden got like a really bad sinus infection. I got a double ear infection. So I was on tons of antibiotics. They put
Oof.
me on an antibiotic for Lyme because I was so fatigued. And then they also gave me a steroid. And that steroid caused a lot of issues for me. I
Which steroid was
think
it?
it was prednisone.
Oof. Okay.
Yeah. And so I had done a lot of research on it before, and I really didn't want to go on it,
Yeah.
but my doctor was like, you'll be fine. It's a short course, whatever. And usually when you go on a steroid, you're supposed to like wean off of it, but they didn't
Right.
really have me do that, which is weird because you're
They just went cold
supposed to.
turkey.
Yeah.
Oh
So,
man.
but I wasn't on it that long. Like it was a very short dose, so I didn't really know. And then so after that, I got a ton of health issues. I started to gain a ton of weight. It was like 15 pounds in like 2 weeks. Tons of inflammation. I was chronically fatigued, and I was like, this is not normal. And then basically I had like an intense bloat. My digestion was off. My skin was off. I didn't look like myself, didn't feel like myself, and a ton of other symptoms.
Oh my gosh. So like as all of this is happening, like what's because you're going through, like you said, like you just got off birth control. So there's
Yeah.
one enormous lever and then all of these other medications. How are you navigating like what's causing what, what is something, maybe something unrelated to those? How are you sort of processing all that at the time?
Yeah, I think it was very hard for me, honestly. That was one of my biggest struggles was being like, okay, well, what's the root of this? Because I
Hmm.
would think it was one thing, but then I would do more research and be like, oh, maybe it's from this. So I looked into a few different things. I thought I had like H. pylori. I think I looked into SIBO once, but then my doctor was like, oh, I don't think you have that, whatever.
Hmm.
So I was like, oh, okay. I always had like this bloat, but for some reason that was overlooked by my doctor, which I'm not surprised. But I had so many other symptoms that I didn't know what was happening. I had facial swelling. I had really intense jaw pain. My body would get inflamed anytime I ate like sugar, dairy, gluten. I mean, it still does, but so many symptoms. And I wrote down like all my symptoms here. I had a lot of nerve related symptoms, I think, from the
Oh,
steroid, which is interesting. So, like, super cold hands and feet.
okay.
And then, yeah, for a long time, and I still kind of have this, it's like it feels like fluid in my jaw almost. My cortisol is spiked from the steroid. So that is cortisol is a hormone
Mm.
and it can cause you to feel almost like tired but wired.
Yeah.
And it can affect you in a lot of ways, but like some people get like cortisol face. Like if my cortisol spikes, I'll like swell up a bit. You have to like make sure you eat when you first wake up or else it spikes. You can't really do intense workouts. So for most of this year, I like haven't worked out much because a lot of things would make it worse. Like my
Yeah.
body would react.
That it was the exact same for me of like slowly going in. I remember
Hmm.
I went to go do a workout and like the first warm-up lunch felt like it had been 1,000 for me. And I was
Hmm.
like, what's going on here? Like I'm working out every day to now it's like maybe I do some yoga, but that might be too much. And like you just have to
Yeah,
feel it out every single day. Were you always like very in tune with your body beforehand?
I would say yes. I've always been someone who's had a strong intuition, but now that I've gone through this like over a year long health journey, I feel like I'm
Mm.
more in tune than ever.
Mm. Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, I think I know my body very well, and I trust myself more in like my own research that I've done than any other opinion at this point.
How did you go about like, do you have a background in science? How did you go about starting to do research and make headway of that? Because obviously you can go on the internet and find one person saying this, one person saying that. Was it just like a lot of trial and error?
Yeah, I think when you go through like a chronic health issue, I'm sure like you've experienced this too, it feels like hopeless. Like it kind of feels like you're fending for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and that's how I felt really all year until or I still feel that way. But I think I've always kind of known that the system isn't necessarily for us. Doctors are trained to prescribe, and I've known that
Yeah.
for years also. Just because I've dealt with like other health issues and antibiotics and this and that. So I've always kind of had this knowing that like no one's necessarily going to help you except for you.
Yeah.
And I think in the health and wellness world, you really have to do your own research. So I think I had a point where I was like, okay, my doctor, all she's doing is having me do more blood work like every month, but then not doing anything with that, right?
Mm.
Or she's referring me, but then I'll get referred to the gastro and he'll be like, he'll know absolutely nothing about SIBO or what can help. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So you just start to realize that like no one really knows what they're talking about. And so I just through like hopelessness and wanting to find solutions had to really dive in myself. So I've listened to tons of podcasts by doctors, for example, or like Chinese medicine stuff. And then also, honestly, TikTok has been a huge resource for me.
Hmm.
I have resorted to TikTok for a lot of my health, and through that, I've found a lot of people, especially in the US and just throughout the world, discussing like gut health or similar issues they're dealing with, or the exact same thing they're going through that you couldn't find on any other app, or new protocols that you wouldn't know unless you saw someone else doing it, you know?
Yeah. I was at a wedding last year sometime and there was a guy there who had worked for Big Pharma previously and hauled off to start his own pharmaceutical company. And he was talking to me about the gut and how just, you know, behind closed doors, the conversation for them is like how many things they think they can treat just by treating the gut and trying to map the
Yeah.
gut and trying to get and like, you know, outwardly still prescribing medications, obviously, but behind closed doors, working very hard to come up with gut first health. And then, you know, you go into how many things are affected by the gut, and it's hard to find something that's not affected by it. My
Yeah.
issues started after antibiotics too. Like I had COVID, was recovering fine, and then
Hmm.
got put on, I think it was doxycycline and Cipro.
I was on doxycycline
Oh
too.
my gosh. I've never felt
Destroys your gut.
destroyed me like in general. They just my hands started to hurt, all my
Yeah.
joints started to hurt. I had terrible acid reflux out of the blue
Hmm.
where like it just felt like everything got burned. And I had called like the emergency doctor in the middle of the night, like, we got to get me off of this. I can't keep, I have like a
Yeah.
week and a half more on this is not happening. And then
So that's the antibiotic that they gave me because they thought I had Lyme. So they use that for Lyme also.
they thought I had a UTI and never tested me for it. They just said,
Okay.
yeah, they were like, I came in and I had had an infection previously.
Hmm.
And so upon further research, I just had like pelvic muscles that needed to be worked. And that was all that needed to happen. Right.
Yeah.
But I came in and I was just like, yeah, I feel like I get up to pee a couple times a night and it's usually I don't have to. And they're like, you have a UTI, you need to take antibiotics. And me at the time, not knowing like you can just test. There's no need to just prescribe. You can just test for,
Right.
a tract infection. Never did. And I took these for no reason. And then you find out like most of your immune system's in your gut. So as I'm
Right.
trying to recover from this viral illness, the whole thing just gets wiped. And, after that, you just, you know, to build back your gut takes so long.
So long.
It doesn't like it's not like a broken bone that it's crazy that a bone can heal in a few weeks, but your stomach takes years sometimes if you can ever get it back to where it needs to be.
I agree. And I also think that doctors will prescribe antibiotics and because it makes their life easier too, they're not getting to the root cause. Even one course of antibiotics, I think, destroys your gut for like 2 years, I'm pretty sure. Something
Yeah.
crazy like that. And I've also had many courses, like, I think since I first got on the birth control pill, like
Yeah.
beginning of college, I started getting sick all the time. It was probably like college also, the environment. But I noticed that's when I really started like getting sick, getting
Mm.
inflamed, gaining weight, and I would get like bad sinus infections. They'd give me an antibiotic, then that would give me another infection because that's what
Oh
they
my
do.
gosh.
And then it was just like this cycle until I like went to Italy and like shifted and healed my gut.
So you're gonna have to explain this to me because I'm not, I
Yeah.
know obviously about birth control and generally how it works,
Yeah.
but one of the things that is fascinating to me about this is like as I'm trying to figure out my issues, like male bodies are complex, but not compared to women's bodies.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
insane. I One of my favorite quotes ever was I was watching a Huberman Lab podcast and he had a guest on to talk about women's health and he asked her like what was the biggest health risk for women and she just said being a woman. Like there's just
Yeah.
so many things that can go wrong at any point in
So many.
and there was like I think he had a couple podcasts that week, and one was like men's hormones. It was all
Hmm.
about it, and it was like an hour and a half. And then the next one was female hormones, and it was like 4 hours.
It's insane. There's so
It's
much that goes into it.
insane. So, do you remember like kind of what it felt like pre going on birth control, and when you went on it, did you notice like a big difference? Like how
Yeah,
did that feel
so
like, and then how did that lead to maybe I should get off of this?
so where do I start with this? So before I think it's interesting because I remember like at my age, like girls were starting to get on the pill and you could get on for any reason. Like you could go in and be like, I have acne, they'd prescribe you the pill. I remember I had like really bad cramps. And then I also had like slight acne, but it was barely anything. It was like puberty acne. And they'll just prescribe you it because it honestly makes their life easier. And
Mm, okay.
I think there's a lot of people coming out now being like, oh, I have tumors, I have PCOS, I have insulin resistance, I have post-pill syndrome. Like, there's a lot of research out there now from girls stating their experience. But when I got on, I remember I went through like the worst depression and mood swings for like 3 months, like
Oh my gosh.
depressing thoughts that were awful. And I remember being like, okay, this is like normal, like for when you first get on the pill. And then also my body was super inflamed and I gained a ton of like water weight and inflammation. And it's interesting because now that I've done a lot of research on it, estrogen, which is in birth control pills, can actually like feed yeast in your body.
Oh,
Um, and then it can also, like, if you're on it long enough, it can cause illnesses,
oh my
which
gosh.
is, yeah. So that's a little bit about that. I felt a lot more in tune with like my intuition since getting off. I'm not anti-birth control, but I am, same with medication. Like, I'm not
Mm.
anti-medication, but I'm very like pro knowing what you're putting in your body, pro be as holistic as you can.
Ramp
And
up.
what was that?
Like ramp up of like, you don't need to jump right to medication always. So like, try something a
Right,
little bit, safer, a little bit lower level and see if just like a little nudge can get you going in the right direction.
right. And it's like the thing with medication is you don't want to be on pills for the rest of your life. And usually when you're put on a medication, I know from experience, like, yeah, it can help with one thing, but then you're going to get side effects for another.
Hmm.
And then you're going to have a new problem. And that's ideally, we live in a country where unfortunately, like, they profit off of you being sick. It's not their goal to have you healthy and holistic. It's their goal to keep you on meds, make
Yeah.
you more sick.
It's so much of it just comes down to like your luck of the draw.
Yeah,
Like your genetics, all that sort of like if you just get lucky and you don't get an infection that needs antibiotics,
totally.
your gut probably holds up pretty well. But, some people are on it their whole lives. Some people
Yeah.
are on it from a young age, and it's an unlucky luck of the draw. I had to go on them in high school, and before that, I love milk. I would probably just me in middle school, I would eat ice cream all day, I'd have pretzels, drink a gallon of milk a week
Hmm.
probably. After that, couldn't do it anymore. No more milk.
Yeah, it's
And
crazy.
it's right out the door. And that was mostly from antibiotics of
Hmm.
just destroyed the bacteria in my gut that produced the lactate that I needed to digest it.
Yeah,
And, I'm starting a little bit now to look into like using like fermented dairy to try to
hmm,
get it back. But even then, like I may probably get like a fraction of it back. But like I'll take it.
totally. And also, you mentioned something earlier about how you were talking to someone who's like part of big pharma,
Yeah.
and they said that basically how everything's connected to your gut. I've noticed through, well, I haven't really got to the point yet about talking about SIBO. I've noticed through this year and through all my health issues and my chronic gut health issues that every single symptom I've had is connected to my gut. And
Mm,
so that's been like the biggest learning realization for me is like a lot of people aren't aware that things stem from your gut and that your gut is basically your second brain. So
mm,
there's a lot of people who have anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue, chronic inflammation, which is everything like I've dealt with. I've just like firsthand noticed how it directly correlates to my gut health. And so I think if people had that knowledge, which I think people are waking up to, I think there is a wellness wave happening. I think younger people are becoming more like holistic and like
mm.
biohacking and this and that, which is great. But your gut really is like your second brain. It controls everything.
So now that you're back here and you don't have access to the Italian food anymore,
Yeah.
how do you approach diet? How do you go about feeding your gut from that point of view of with SIBO and everything?
Yeah. So let me start off with saying like how I got diagnosed with
Yeah.
SIBO.
Oh yeah, let's start with
So
that.
for like 6 months, I would say, six or maybe like 8 months, I had all these symptoms and I had no idea what it was so lost. Finally, I saw a functional medicine doctor. In our first meeting, she was like, she heard me describe my symptoms and she was like, I think you have methane SIBO. So there's two kinds of SIBO, there's hydrogen and there's methane. Um, and they just have kind of different effects on you.
Okay.
And so I told my doctor, and I went to the hospital, I got a breath test, and it's a 3 hour test basically where you blow into a bag. And that came back, and it did show it was positive for methane. So that's how I knew I had SIBO, and it was nice because I felt validated. I was like, okay, I'm not going insane. Like all these symptoms I have, I'm not crazy. Like I actually
Yeah.
do have something wrong with my gut. So I found out I had SIBO. I saw a functional doctor a few times. And then I kind of stopped at some point just because I felt like it wasn't like helping me anymore.
Hmm.
But I just took it upon myself to do research and everything. I did take some of my functional doc's suggestions on basically, there's three ways you can kill SIBO.
Okay.
Um, it's like the hardest thing in the world to get rid of, but you can do antibiotics. These are rifaximin, and then for methane, you compare it with neomycin, right?
Ooh.
I, well, okay. The second thing you can do is antimicrobial. So these are things like oil of oregano,
Mm.
berberine, thyme, grapeseed. There's so many different ones. Neem, and you can do like combinations of them. You can rotate them. You're supposed to start slow and only do it for a certain amount of time and then like take a break or switch them. So I started off with those and nothing was really working. And then I decided to try the antibiotic. Rifaximin actually can cost you thousands of dollars, which is crazy because it's supposed to only hit like a targeted area in your body.
Yeah.
So thankfully my insurance covered it. And I was like, okay, I only had to pay like $3. So I did that and I did that this summer before I went on a trip to Greece and
Mm.
I felt great for like 3 weeks, right? My inflammation went down. I felt like myself again. My fatigue went away. Another symptom I've had is like stiffness. Like my fascia is stiff all the time
Oh yeah.
and sore. And so that went away. So I was like, okay, great. And then after 3 weeks, it came back. And that's common with antibiotics. It just relapses. The third thing you can do is something called the elemental diet, which
Oh,
I
okay.
am gonna try soon. But basically, that's it gives you all the nutrients you need, but it starves the bacteria in your gut because it's not giving you food. So with SIBO, you have to eat low FODMAP, which is how I've been eating most of this year.
Gotcha.
I don't eat like dairy, gluten, sugar, or else I get inflamed. So at some point, I hit a point where eating those foods wasn't worth it for me anymore. I was like, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
inflamed for like a week. I won't feel good. I won't look like myself. So I've been eating super clean all year, which is hard, but I feel more disciplined than ever. So
Yeah. Well, that's what I was gonna ask. Like that, honestly, so I found that to be the most restrictive thing of everything I had to do was the
yeah,
fact that, you don't realize how much food is a part of your social life and just,
totally.
your personal life and everything. Or you go to work and they have pizza or something. You're like, yeah, I can't partake. And you just have to, you feel like a
It's
party pooper.
surrounding you all the time.
Yeah. How did you like through all of this? Because you do a million things, it feels
Mhm.
like. You're traveling, you're doing all sorts of stuff, you're starting all sorts of different things, all these ventures, like on top of having to deal with all of these symptoms.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I would say it's been the hardest year of my life. It hasn't been easy at all. I definitely hit like rock bottom this year. So I would say like I didn't necessarily deal with it. I just had to go through it. And I missed out on what felt like a lot of life. Like I couldn't just like go out to eat, or if I went out to eat, I still have to be super restrictive. I went through basically all winter. I felt like I was dying every day. I didn't feel good at all.
Mm,
So like I didn't even feel like hanging out with my friends. Like I went through just long periods of being so lonely because I genuinely like
mm,
felt like I was dying. I didn't feel good every day. So I would say it was a very like, and I'm so grateful for like the close friends in my life and my family who like have stuck by me and understand because
mm.
I would say it was a very dark year. And when you're going through something like that, I also had to learn that a lot of people won't understand because they're not going through it, and you just have to be okay with that. Like you have to be okay with feeling your lowest and showing up somewhere and people have no idea how you feel. You
And
know what I
even
mean?
and even if they want to know, like, how do you explain it in like really quick? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
how do you boil down this whole year of your life into a couple sentences? It's
Exactly. And I've had to do that sometimes, but then it's like you don't want people to pity you, but then you also like even distant family members, for example, that I don't see that often. Like I remember like telling them like the year I went through and they're like, "Oh my God." And it's like because it's not something I'm gonna bring up if I'm seeing someone like,
right.
once a year.
When you're in those moments, like those really low, lonely moments, how do you or how did you pull yourself out of it? Was it the friends, the family? Did you make like changes to your life? Was there like kind of come to Jesus moments?
Genuinely, the thing that has gotten me through this entire year is keeping my faith, keeping my hope. I'm big on like living through a higher power. I'm big on like the universe.
Mm,
I am big on God. I think those can coexist. Just a higher power, a higher like trusting and knowing like there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
mm,
Um, because when you go through like this chronic health issue feeling, there were a lot of times where I'd be hopeful for a week and then I'd be the opposite the following week and I'd be
yeah.
crying like once a week. And then that became mentally exhausting too because I'd be so hopeful, but then the next day I would feel awful and I'd be down again. So it was like this every other day, like just like
Yeah.
constantly flipping how I felt. I was like, okay, I have hope again. Or I'd find something online, like a new protocol, and I'd be like, oh, I'm like excited. I have hope again. Then the next day, just like completely feel like I'm dying, like
Yeah.
nothing's working. So it was a lot of that. Dealt with a lot of depression this year and like feeling lost, but not really knowing it was depression. Like
Mm,
I didn't know that's what it was for a long time until I remember I had a conversation with one of my friends and she was kind of feeling depressed too and we were talking about it and I was telling her like everything I felt. She was like, I think that's depression. And I was like, oh my God, I think it is. Because I was telling her, I was like, I can't be present in the moment. Like I
yeah.
can't picture like the future. Like and she was yeah, I was like, I literally can't get myself to be present, which also relates back to your nervous system because
Mm.
when your gut is off and your nervous system is off, you are constantly in fight or flight, and it's hard to get yourself to be in the present moment.
It's so hard. It
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little bit of a I had learned to meditate in high school when I had
Hmm.
I made the varsity hockey team as a freshman. And so I went from playing in front of my parents to now all of my friends are here and I had crazy anxiety. Like used
Hmm.
to like throw up before games. I was so nervous. And so
Oh no.
at the time they were like, we can put you on Lexapro, but I was at even then like I don't want to be reliant on medication because what if I'm somewhere and I can't pop a pill?
Yeah,
I need to be able to calm myself down. And
totally.
so I got into meditation and tried a bunch of different things. And I found that even that, like when you're so strung out and you can't calm down, even that just like it doesn't seem to work and you just get more and more
Yeah.
frustrated and then it just cycles and you're like people are like, "Oh, just breathe." And you're like,
Yes. Oh my God, I love
I,
this topic.
"Go ahead. You go ahead."
Um, no, I agree with everything you say. Like, yes, I do think that your nervous system plays a role in your healing because if you don't feel safe and your body doesn't feel safe, it's going to be a lot harder to heal. But I
Absolutely.
also think, like, if you are meditating, if you are working out, if you are eating healthy and nothing is working, there's
Mm.
usually a deeper root issue that until that is fixed, no amount of meditation, no amount of clean eating, no amount of working out is going to change that. And
No.
so I relate to you on that because that's word for word what I've experienced this year. Like,
Yeah.
especially when my like cortisol is the highest, like now I feel like mentally I'm in a good place, I think, with like the supplements I'm taking. And just like I think my nervous system has taken a long time. It's calmed down a lot from where it was.
Mm.
But I agree with you. Like people would be like, "Oh, just breathe. Have you tried meditation? Have you tried probiotics?" It's like when there's deeper issues, and people don't know until, and you don't know until you go through it, right?
Right.
You can, you truly don't know how much your hormones affect you, your gut affects you until you have an issue with it. So it's like you can't blame people, but
Right. Like you tell people you're like you try to go and say like I have chronic fatigue and they
yeah,
think, "Oh, he's tired." And
yes,
you're like, I'm not like, yes,
you're
I'm
like,
tired. I'm tired. Yes, that is true. But it's not like tired before where I'm like, pound of Red Bull, pound of coffee, and I'm good to go. And I can just
right,
push through it. Or like, I'm gonna hit a second wave here in like an hour. Just give me a moment. Like, there's nothing coming. It's just gonna
yeah,
get worse and worse. I can't do anything today. We're
I
done for the
agree.
day. I had an hour in the morning where I could get something done. I was productive, and now I'm gonna lay on the couch and just ride it out and be sore and inflamed and just
You
try to
get
like
it.
not spiral mentally into like, is this my last day on earth?
That like little summary you just gave like describes my entire life the last
Yeah.
year.
Well, this is
Not
the thing. It's
kidding.
like it's unless you have been through it, you don't
You
get
don't
it.
know.
Yeah, like it's not just anxiety.
Right.
It took me a long time to figure out like it was my nervous system.
Hmm.
Like I was getting heart palpitations and I was dizzy all the time. I was getting
Same.
like POTS like symptoms almost like
Same.
stand up and like and then I would just have these like moments of like my body's freaking out, but mentally
Yeah.
I was like there's no reason for me to be anxious right now. Like I'm
I've
just
had that exact feeling where people are like, "Well, what's making you anxious? Like, what, like, why
yeah,
are you stressed in life? Like, is it your job? Like," and I'm like, mentally, I'm not stressed. Like, I'm chilling.
yeah,
I'm like, there's no reason, but your body is stressed.
yeah.
And that's something that, again, you don't understand until you go through it. But like you said, I think chronic fatigue, that was one of my like worst symptoms this year because I actually have felt way more energy the last 3 weeks for the first time all year, which is great.
There we go.
Um, and I think that's from one of the supplements I'm taking.
Which one?
I started taking CoQ10.
Ooh,
And
okay.
I can't say like for sure it's from that because I take a bunch of supplements, right? But that's one, like I also take antimicrobials, etc.
Right.
But that's one that it says it's for your heart, but it can really help with your mitochondrial energy.
Yeah.
And I have like full on notice, full flip in my life. Like I can go through my days with energy. I feel normal energy wise, whereas
Mm,
before, like you said, I was tired all the time. Like people didn't understand.
yeah.
Like even like my family, it was hard for them to understand, but like I didn't feel like doing anything ever. Like chronic fatigue really controls your life because even like work I had to get done, I couldn't do it. Like
No.
that's how tired I was. Like on my phone, like remote work even. Like I couldn't get myself to be productive, and I think that's another symptom of like your gut being off.
Yeah. It's the COQ10 is interesting because I had looked into that. My understanding is like this is going to be a really bad scientific explanation, but there's like 4 or 5 junctions in your body for energy, and
Hmm.
that like CoQ10 affects one, and like B vitamins affect another one,
Hmm.
and NAD affects one, and that part of the trial and error is figuring out where the issue is happening, which junction are things getting messed up at,
Totally.
of like going through and finding out like the MTHFR gene mutation, of not realizing like like I guess half the population has some sort of mutation that prevents them from methylating B vitamins, right?
Yeah,
And you would think like, why did nobody test me for this at some point just to like find out where it is so I can take the stuff I need so I have the nutrients for my body to do what my body needs to do, you know?
totally.
And like you said, like, I can go out into, get out into nature and get my feet on the ground and meditate and try to connect. But like, if my body doesn't have the raw materials, if
Yes.
it doesn't have the CoQ10, I can stay out there until kumbaya. It's not going to
Right.
change anything.
Yeah. And that's another thing that I think like when your core is destroyed, that stuff doesn't matter.
No, none of that stuff matters. Like,
No.
you're supposed to get energy from food, and you eat the food, and then it just blows you up,
Right.
and you feel worse. And then you're sitting there going, I have to do this again
Yeah.
in like 4 or 5 hours. And it's
Yeah.
just
And
repeat the cycle.
it's interesting what you said about vitamins and like nutrients because when you have like leaky gut, gut dysbiosis, SIBO, IBS, Crohn's, anything like that,
Oh.
or any gut health issue at all,
Hmm.
it prevents your body from absorbing the nutrients in food. So like
Hmm.
I'll eat food and my body may not be benefiting from it, you know?
Right.
So
Did you mess around like with like a like fasting or like a carnivore diet or a vegan diet?
yeah, so I have tried a lot of things. I tried carnivore for a
Mhm.
while, and that didn't seem to, I mean, it helped me with inflammation, but it didn't seem to get rid of my SIBO at all, even
Right.
like long periods. I eat low FODMAP basically, so I basically eat carnivore, but with like veggies, some fruits.
Yeah.
Low FODMAP is interesting because there are certain foods that are high and some that are low, and it's
Right.
very like random. Like blueberries are low FODMAP, but bananas are high FODMAP. Um, and then certain veggies, like I think Brussels sprouts are high FODMAP,
Yep.
carrots are like just random things that you have to like know or look
Yeah.
up. Um,
I think
and the thing with
potatoes,
SIBO, what was
right.
that?
I would say I think like with potatoes, it was like if you take the skin off and cook them and then cool them, they're not as bad versus
Yeah,
just
like
like
sweet potato is better for you or
right, much
something.
better, yeah.
Um, but everyone's different, and that's where I also think like with SIBO, it's really hard to know what foods are affecting you. Even on like I'm on the most restrictive diet, but also like I try to have things like bone broth, like aloe vera juice is supposed to be really good for SIBO. But like I walk into the grocery store and there's like 10 things that I can buy, and the rest I'm like, that's sugar, that has extra ingredients, that has dairy, that has carbs. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy when you get into like the health and field. And I think living in Italy too, truly, I'm so grateful that I got to live there because it showed me how health is supposed to be. It showed me
Mhm.
like ever since I went there, I look at ingredients on food now. I know what's supposed to be my body and what's not.
Mhm.
Um, and it's like I really think that you have to just look out for yourself because
Yeah.
everything is poison in this
Yeah.
country.
It's so I don't know if you had this experience, but when I was 19, I got a job as a coach for a professional hockey team in Sweden, and I moved over there.
That's so
And
cool.
it
I want
was
to
a
go to
trip.
Sweden.
It was a trip. I was in a town called Umeå, which is very far north. It's like an hour's flight north of Stockholm. And like during the winter, the sun barely comes up. Like you see
Yes,
it
I've
peak
heard
out
that.
and then it's gone again. And
Yeah.
but during the summer, it never goes down. It's like
Hmm.
you get sunset a little bit at midnight, and so you can be out, and if you don't have like the curtains and stuff, you will just stay out until 2 a.m. and it's gonna feel like it's 3 p.m.
That
It's
sounds so cool though.
it's the best. But when I got there thinking like, yeah, okay, I can't have milk. I got to be careful with bread because it always blows me up and
Hmm.
all these other things. I don't feel good. And I got there and they have a meal called fika, which is basically just like a brunch, just at random times. And they have the most delicious foods you've ever
Hmm.
had. But a lot of it had, breads and crackers and milk in it, and there was like a chocolate cake and stuff like that. And I was like, oh gosh, okay. But I don't want to be rude, so I'm gonna eat it. No problems. And I was like, that's weird. And
Isn't
so
it crazy?
the next day I was like, well, let me just try straight up. So I had some milk and I had some bread and I sat there and I had no issues. And I was like,
It's insane.
I'm healed. This is
Yeah.
unbelievable. And then I was there for like half the season, quarter of the season, and then came back home and immediately was like, guys, I can have milk again. Went to the
hmm
store, got some milk, went into urgent care because
Yeah.
it just couldn't handle. And I was like, and that kind of for me started like those clockworks of like, what's going on here? Why can I
Yeah.
eat these foods over there and not have issues, but then I come here and I have all sorts of problems?
It's crazy because like I feel like we could make a whole podcast
Oh
just
no.
about like food and everything. But I fully agree with you. I think like in Europe, it's like you can drink the milk and feel great. You can have sweets and feel great. You can
Yeah.
eat. I think I had pasta like 3 times a week there, and I still was losing weight. Um, and I would have like a cappuccino for breakfast, a chocolate croissant. Um, and that's what most like Italians would do like every
Yeah.
morning, and they still would feel great. Obviously, I would eat healthy foods too, but just the fact that they can eat like bread there and dairy and it's like real and not processed or,
Yeah.
you know, it's like
Yeah.
that's how it's honestly very sad, like
Yeah.
that this is how we have to live.
Yeah, and it's tough to explain it to people too. Like,
Yeah.
it's sort of one of those things that I find with people that you go to them and they're like, "But I feel fine." And I'm like, "You feel how you've always felt." You know what I mean? Like when
Yes.
you're going to the gym and you're trying to put on muscle, you get like 2 months in and you're like, "Oh, I feel bigger." But like you've been getting incrementally bigger every day.
Totally.
But you just don't, it takes a while to notice.
Yeah, and
And
I think people don't realize how inflamed we are in this
right.
country, how like obesity is an issue for a reason in this country. It's not just about looks, it's about your health.
Yeah, you have no idea how good you can feel. Like when you
Yes.
really lock in, you have no idea just how great you can feel. And once you go back and like if you cut out these foods that trigger you and then you go back, that's when you really feel it of like, oh my gosh, how was I living like this?
Yeah. And that's exactly how I felt. Like once I felt how healthy I was and saw
Mm.
how healthy I could look, ever since then I'm still trying to get back to that. I mean,
Mm.
it's hard with SIBO because it like causes like inflammation, weight gain, but once I get rid of it, because I know that I will,
Yeah.
I'm excited to go back to like just looking the healthiest I can look and
Yeah.
feeling the healthiest I can feel because I know now like what it takes.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
I like that when I will get rid of this.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to talk about the manifesting and like the mental side of this too.
Yeah,
Because you have an account called Aspire to Inspire.
I
And
do.
I love a lot of the quotes on it. For me, when I was at my lowest point, which was probably like maybe 2 years ago in the summer, right?
hmm
Where I had been away, I had gone to UVA thinking like, okay, I'm going to go to the University of Virginia. I'm going to get my master's degree. I'm going to join the Navy. I'm going to get this great job. I'm going to do all these sort of things. Like, I'm going to set my life up because previous to that, I had just been doing everything. I'm like, I'm young. I'm going to say yes to I'm going to go to Sweden. I'm going to move there to coach hockey. I'm going to come
Yes,
back. I'm going
as
to
you
go
should.
absolutely, as you should, like go out and seize life. I'm going to go to New York
Yes.
City and I'm going to do improv and I'm going to work for these companies and get to do all these shows and get to meet all these cool people and have these crazy experiences. And I did all of that. And, none of it panned out into like the thing that it could. But at the same time, I was like, no worries. Like there's other things I can do. I got to say that I got to go to New York and do all these things. And now all these people that I was with, like they're on TV shows, they're writing for movies, they're influencers, and just be like, yeah, I met that person when they were just starting out. Um, and so I was on that journey and then had to cut it short because like the fatigue, you just I can't push through all these things. There's no way I'm going to get through a
Yeah.
military training. There's no way I'm going to get through any of this stuff. And having to sort of tuck your tail between your legs and move back home and be like, Mom and Dad, I need someone to take care of me because like there's days where I
Yeah.
can barely take care of myself and it's a real fight. And I had a moment where I remember I was sleeping in bed and there's a tree in my backyard that I planted when I was 2 years old. I had gotten an apple seed from the store, and my mom was like, "Yeah, we'll throw it in the ground," and it somehow grew. Even though now I've gotten into gardening a little bit, and like to understand how hard it is to get one thing to grow, I don't
Yeah,
know
you're
how
like,
this,
how?
I don't know how this thing grew, but it's been there my whole life. And the seed, and like you know, the year before it had been eaten up by a bunch of like moths and died, and so we were like, "All right, we'll chop it down," all that sort of thing. And I had this moment of like you know, what's my life going to be? Like, I had all these goals, all these things I wanted to do, you know, all of these places I wanted to go, all of these goals I wanted to accomplish. Am I ever going to be able to do any of them? Am I just going to be a vegetable the rest of my life dealing with this stuff?
Hmm.
And so I had a moment where I was like, universe, God, you haven't heard from me in a while, but if it's possible, let me know. Like, just give
Hmm.
me a sign. And so I woke up the next morning and there was a little leaf on the tree. And
I
so
love that.
I was like, I still don't know. Like, maybe it's a coincidence, that sort of thing. So I was like, all right, I want this number of leaves next morning. If it's
Hmm.
this number, we'll see. And I woke up the next morning and I looked out and I had that number of leaves. And I was
Hmm.
like, this is getting there.
Yeah.
One more time. Like, if this is the most random number I can think of, if there's this many leaves, I'm in. And I know that I can get better and that it may
Totally.
take a month, a year, 10 years, I can do it. And I woke up the next morning, I could barely sleep the night before, looked out, and on the dot, there was that many leaves. I went out and counted it like three
That's
times.
crazy.
And I was like, all right, God is listening.
Yeah.
I can do this. And I made a mental shift at that moment where I had never really been like into manifesting at that
Hmm.
point, but in that moment, I experienced it of like, I'm gonna get better. Like, there's
Yeah.
no doubt in my mind that I'm not going to die. Like,
Yeah.
I've decided right now, I'm not going to die. I'm going to get better. I'm gonna do it for my future wife and kids who I don't know
Hmm.
yet, or maybe I do, but I don't know them yet. But they exist, and I'm gonna pretend like they exist. I'm going to get better for them. I'm going to get my life together. I'm going to do all of these things.
Hmm.
And if it's an inch at a time, we're going to go at an inch at a time.
I love that. I
Yeah.
relate to that a lot. Um, Everything you said. I think
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
I
Um,
love the idea of being able to manifest because I've felt it so like profoundly in my life. So
Totally.
for you, has that always been how you were, or is that something that's come on since all of these things started to happen?
Um, I would say I have always had that side of me from a young age. Like since I
Mm,
was little, I've had this high connection to source, and I've kind of lived through that my whole life.
mm,
Um, but it wasn't until I would say I started my brand that I feel like I've really been able to like showcase that faith that I have.
mm,
Which has felt really good because it's very much like my soul, like
mm,
in creation form. Like it feels like it's meant for me and I know it's meant for me. And so it's like it's very vulnerable for me. So it took me a while to put it out. But since I was younger, I've been into like self-development, thoughts,
mm.
mindset, manifestation, all of that. And like I was making vision boards like in high school, like before it was like trending, right?
Yeah.
But it's more than that, like I think it's this feeling of knowing you're protected, you're being guided.
Mm,
Um, what I like to do a lot is write. Like I'll
mm,
write in different ways, whether that's like writing about gratitude or even just the other day, like it sounds crazy, but I like sometimes I'll tap into like my future self, like
mm,
the highest version of myself, and I'll like talk to myself and give myself advice and be like, you are gonna heal. Like, this is working out for you. Like, I give myself the exact advice that I know I need to hear, and that's true to my core.
Mm.
So I recommend you try that if you ever need to like
Yeah.
feel better because we truly have all the answers inside of us.
Yeah.
It's just about finding it. And like you said, where you had like tapped into like God and the universe throughout my healing journey, I mean, in my life, but especially throughout this year, I've had to do that numerous times. Like, even though I had times where I wasn't hopeful, in the core of my being, I knew that things were gonna get better. Like I've
Yeah.
always had that mindset, even when it's been clouded or I was like so depressed because I thought I was dying. Like I still knew, like, okay, you're gonna be better one day. So I had to work on my mindset a lot. When your gut is that destroyed, your thoughts can trick you. Like there were times I'd be like running on my treadmill for a little bit and I'd have like these mindset like YouTube motivation videos playing for
Yeah.
like a couple weeks and then I'd stop that for a month and then right now I'm in a good mental shift where I feel very hopeful
Yeah.
and I think that's because of the protocols that I'm excited to try and already like without doing them yet. I don't know if this makes sense, but just the mindset of them of like kind of knowing that they're gonna help me
Yeah.
has already put me in a better feeling. So I do think like manifestation is real in that sense, but I also think it's
Mm.
because I have more energy and because of the supplements I'm taking and the protocols I'm doing, that makes me less depressed, gives me more energy, which allows me to then be more hopeful
Yeah.
also.
So, how does it work out in practice? Like, is there certain phrases you like to say to yourself? The idea of talking to your future self is interesting because people talk about like, what would you tell your old self? But you flip it on the head of like, what would your ideal self tell you?
Yeah,
And a lot of times, that's such a great point because it's going to tell you the things that you inwardly know you need
yeah.
to hear, but are maybe afraid to confront for one reason or another.
Totally. Yeah, and I think you can do that through just like talking to yourself. I think you can do it through writing. I
Mm.
love to write because I feel like that's when all the answers come to me. I think
Mm.
it connects to the source for me, and it's like things come out in writing that I'm like, okay. Um, so all of that like helps me stay in the mindset of like, okay, I'm going to heal. For me, it's not an option because, like you said, I have a life to live. I
Yeah.
have a future husband. I have my future kids. I have these goals and dreams that I will be living. I have my brands. Like, for me, it's not an option to not heal.
Yeah.
Um, and I've tried everything and I'll keep trying things. And like I said, I have some things that I'm super hopeful about.
Mhm.
So, I think you just have to keep pushing and keep trying. And I think it's really just about not giving up on yourself and keeping your faith. Um, and I do think like God and the universe like is helping you and I think it's
Mm.
giving you hints towards things. I think it Oh, I have a story for you actually.
Let's hear it.
So I took a little weekend trip to Florida last weekend and basically something I'm about to try after I do another protocol. I think we've discussed it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was in Florida and it was a Saturday morning. I like went on this walk to a cafe. I was gonna get matcha. It was like a 30-minute walk. And on the way to the cafe, I'm like using GPS. I see this other cafe on the way, and I just like went into it. I was like, it just like, I didn't even think twice about it. I just
Yeah.
felt like guided into it. And so I get to the desk and I'm looking at the food and I'm like, oh, like, are these gluten free or whatever? Like, usually I don't get anything anyways, even if it is gluten free, but I was just like, let me just ask.
Yeah.
Um, and the lady working, she was like, why do you have celiac? And I was like, no, I have like gut issues, like I have SIBO. And she immediately was like, oh, I had that. And this is weird because for like the previous 2 weeks, I had met so many people who had SIBO, like a girl that I worked with, another random girl who came in the store. Just like these little interactions with people telling me that they had it. And I
Wow.
hadn't really gotten much of that all year. So it was like confirmation from the universe being like,
Yeah.
they did these things, like, and each person had like advice for me or like something that I had heard about, but like they had success with. So I was like, okay. And this girl, this is after I had ordered these. She started talking about those and how they like changed her life. And we got into like a 25-minute conversation about it. And I got like her number. Basically, that was like crazy confirmation for me. Like
Yeah.
everything about these feels right for me. And so I've just, that was like one of those little moments where I was like, there's no reason I should have went in that store or like met
Yeah.
her. But like I did, and just the things she was telling me, I was like, okay, yeah, like I was meant to come in here. And I think I
Absolutely.
was just like guided in there.
I have 100% you were. Like
Yeah.
you talk about feeling lonely, and then the universe just kind of reveals this community to you
Yeah,
of the support of people that you don't even know you need, but you need.
totally.
That's so beautiful. Oh
So,
my gosh. I love
yeah,
stuff like that. I feel like
same.
when you really get in touch with that thing, and it wasn't always like a big thing for me, but
Hmm.
when you can really tap into that like vein of consciousness or energy or however you want to phrase it, you just have those moments of, I don't even think it's coincidence. Like, I think
No,
it is completely what was meant to be. And
I agree. I think there's too many things to be coincidences. And I
absolutely.
think when you live by a higher power and faith and you see things like play out the way they do, you know that it's not just coincidences.
No, it's impossible. Like there's too many things, like the domino effect is too big
Right.
where it's you sort of, because I had a moment where when you got sick you're like why? Like
Yeah.
why would this happen to me? What did I do
Hmm.
something wrong? Did I do something to deserve all of this? And you
Yes, I
sort of
had the
go
same.
you're going through it and you're like I don't feel like I was a bad person, but like maybe I could have been a better person. And then you sort of make that change and then the universe delivers it to you, and then slowly over time, over the months, the years, you start to see the story unfold. And you think about all of these businesses you wanted to do, where I'm sure at some point you're like, I want to be a part of this business atmosphere, but what would I even do? And then through this journey that was probably one of the worst things you've been through in your life, these business ideas like Aspire just start to manifest in front of you, and the universe hands you the things that you needed.
Totally. You said how, like, you've had moments where you're like, why is this happening to me? And I've definitely felt the same. But I also have known to my core through the whole thing that, like, as much as I want to say this isn't happening for a reason, I do think everything happens for a reason. And
Hmm.
not necessarily like, oh, you deserve this illness. But I feel as though, and I've seen a few different people with illnesses speak about this or who have gone through like chronic illness. It almost like levels you up spiritually.
Hmm.
And I think like when you go through something so low, you have no choice but to like you gain so much strength from it, like
Hmm.
physically, mentally. I have never felt stronger in my life because of what I've had to endure this year. And I know mentally what I've been through. And because of that, like I truly feel like I know I can do anything.
Hmm.
And I also think that going through this, like going through hard times, like you said, propels you on your path. Like
Hmm.
because of that, I have a story to tell with my brand also. Like
Yeah.
obviously I have other stories besides my health, but my health is also a huge story about my journey and how I can inspire people. And I do think not that everyone's deserving of it, but I think the people that have gone through it, it's transcended us
Hmm.
spiritually because that's all you've had at the end of the day is your
Yeah.
faith. That's all you've had to believe in when you feel like you're dying, when your heart is racing every day, you don't look like yourself, you feel lost, like you
Hmm.
feel hopeless. That's all you have is your faith.
Yeah. So, f- when do you, how, like, what moments have you felt like closest to your faith or most like in tune with your faith? Is there like something you do every week beyond like this? Is it just the, the talking and the journaling, or is there like a practice you have or like moments or something like that that really helps you connect?
Yeah, I would say um obviously there's like a ton of like practices, things I can do, but I would say it's just I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like a light within you. And then I would say something I do every day is like when I wake up, I try and sit outside for like 10 to 15 minutes and get like
Yeah.
sun on my face first thing. Or even if it's not first thing, like I try and get sun every day. And I think grounding is good. Like if you can like put your feet on the grass, like even in your backyard for
Yeah.
like 10 minutes, get into nature. I think nature and stillness, like sometimes I
Mm.
notice I'll be listening to music a lot and I'm like, okay, I need to like quiet my mind, like hear the birds, hear the wind, and I'll just like lay outside, put my feet in the grass, no music, and just that really helps me connect and calm my
Um,
nervous system also. So that's
uh,
just like one of the things, I guess.
have you ever tried to like doing that in like other places as you travel? I've found like for me when I was, going through Europe or whatever, that getting out barefoot and just like when you get off the plane touching the ground,
hmm
for whatever reason, when I don't do it, I really feel the jet lag and like it really hits me. But when I'm able to do it, which is some not every time, but I feel like I am able to connect just with the place. And
Yeah,
I had that exact same feeling and how I would describe it of like that thing inside of you that kind of like you feel it in your chest of like that light, that sort of warmth that it's a very weird feeling, but it's just
yeah.
such a positive feeling. I had always sort of thought that like maybe that's just like my soul and like I
Mm,
feel it because I'm really aligning with it, where it's sort of your soul knows where you should be going, like all of the great things you can do. And
totally.
when you lose
I
sight of that, it dulls and it's like a little flame that comes in. But if you can, align yourself and just sit there and sit in the feeling and close your eyes in the sun and connect with it.
Totally. I think that's another good. It's easy when you go through something dark to feel unaligned. But yeah, I think aligning with your soul is what helps that a ton.
Absolutely. So with, as you're kind of going forward now, what
hmm
are sort of these, how do you feel like you build upon this progress? Because like you said, like you can have these moments where you have lots of hope, and then, a week later, a day later, it just kind of feels like it, fades away, and now you're starting to get some progress. How do you sort of see that steamrolling and snowballing you forward?
I would say just continuing to be hopeful. There's not really anything like, because even when I do like antimicrobials, like you can
Mm.
still eat something and get inflamed or not notice improvement. I guess just keeping your mindset strong when you are hopeful, like I am right now, trying to keep that up, trying to ride that wave. I think having that mindset shift, like you mentioned, like I am going to get healthy, is huge. And I think that also, obviously, it doesn't help when you're not feeling great, but it does help when you have a little bit of momentum and you can keep going off of that momentum. I also think something that's helped me a ton is working on my brand, Aspire to Inspire. For me, when I speak my truth on there and create art, like I've been posting more recently the last month and like actually have felt like creating and curating, which it
Yeah.
was hard for me to feel like that all year with my health. The more I've done that, the more I've felt at peace and the more I feel like I
Oh,
share and want to share my journey and like follow the aligned steps, I also feel like that heals a part of my soul because I'm starting to like speak my truth and do
yeah.
what I'm meant to do in a sense,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So I want to hear more about like your creative process with this and like how this art kind of comes out of you and where do these things come from for you?
Yeah, so I've had this vision for my brand for a very long time, since eighth grade.
Oh,
Originally, it was just a blog post, so I've always been into writing. And I think truly my thoughts come out best on paper, like when I'm
mm,
writing. And so that's always been huge for me. But I would say the creative process, I've been working all year on it. So it hasn't been easy, but I truly have done everything like on my own. I've wanted it to come from me, from my creativity, because that's what makes it my brand. And there's this quote I love that is like, make it sacred or don't make it at all.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what I'm going for with this brand. I don't want any part of it to be like trendy or
Yeah.
fake or whatever it is. Like, I want it to be authentic. I want it to be me, full of my decisions, my creativity, and I really want to inspire people with it.
What made you choose clothing?
I have always been obsessed with hoodies, like from a young age. I know it sounds crazy, but well, it's not that crazy. But I've just loved hoodies. Like it's been the thing that I always feel the most me in, the most confident in.
Yeah.
Um, and just every time fall and winter roll around, like I love hoodies, even in the summer, like at night. So
Oh yeah.
I have always kind of wanted my own hoodie brand, and then it just kind of felt like everything was meant to be, like starting the brand, having the podcast aspect where I can like share
Mm.
wisdom and have people on and share stories, and then also have clothing with it. It all kind of pieced together to the point where I've never doubted it. I'm so confident in the vision and what it can be that I've never doubted it. It's always
Yeah.
felt right. So, yeah, clothing is something I've always wanted to do. And I love streetwear. I love that aesthetic, like cool girl vibes in a sense. So, I wanted to create that so that like guys and girls can wear it.
With your writing, have you thought about like, and you must have, like, writing one of these books about any of the things we've talked about today? Just even a biography would, I feel like would be crazy, you know?
Yeah, I actually have. It's funny because when I was little, in fifth grade, I like won this art contest and it was like $1,000 for my class. And the picture I drew said, anything is possible if you believe you can achieve. And it had
Oh,
three sections on it. And one of them is like, be a mother. One of them is, I want to be an author. I want to be an artist. I truly think the things you want as a child, like the interests you have, the dreams you have, it's something that we always get back to. Like it always ends
yeah.
up being like your soul calling in a
It's a
sense.
pure expression of yourself.
It's a pure expression of yourself. Yeah. So like what you do as a child, once you come back to it, it's like the root of your passion, your purpose. So anyways, I have always wanted to write my own book. Even when I like went through Italy and like went through a breakup, I thought about writing a book after that. I think there's a lot of things I could write it on, but definitely I could write a whole book about gut health at this point. Yeah, I think I do want to write a book at some point. The time isn't now for me yet, but when I feel
Yeah.
called to, I definitely can picture myself doing that.
It's crazy to think back like how many things started even in middle school and grade
Yeah.
school and just can't I had that same experience of I would say over the last couple of years getting back in touch with things that I did as a kid just for fun because I enjoyed
Hmm.
them and finding enjoyment in them once again of not feeling like, oh, I'm too old to be doing this or I
Totally.
need to project this image and if I get caught doing all of these things then people aren't going to think this way or that way about me.
Yeah,
Just doing it because I wanted to do it and because I enjoyed doing those things
totally.
and embracing those things. And what I've found is that when people ask you about them and you just sort of own it, whereas like a kid, I would kind of like play it down and be like, oh, no, I don't really do that. Like, I'm not super into chess or I'm not super into video games or all that sort of thing. Then when you just own it, you find like so many people are just like, oh, I love that too. And you just start connecting with way more people. And
Totally.
it's ironic because the thing you're worried about is that you won't connect with them. But
Yeah,
it's the key to connecting. Just be yourself.
that's a really good point. I think that when you are authentic, you're gonna meet your tribe of people. And so I fully relate to that. Like even with this brand, I felt like the people that are supporting me and like following it and are excited about it, like that's like the community of people I want, you know? I
Yeah.
want it to be a community of people who kind of match on the same wavelength of energy and mindset. So, yeah, I think when you're passionate about things, like you said, it's scary, but then once you realize the key to gaining your tribe is like being that pure form of yourself.
Yeah. What so far of all of the things that you've done, or maybe all like of the things you want to do but haven't started yet, what intimidates or has intimidated you the most?
That's a really good question. I would say the thing that's been the hardest for me, especially with starting this brand, you kind of have to, one, just like get over yourself. Like when you start something, there's so much fear behind it. Like I
Right.
remember before I announced my brand, I was so scared because it's vulnerable, right? You're
Right.
sharing something that's like from your soul.
Right.
And so I was so scared to post about it and I was so nervous. And then I just did it and I knew it was right. But I would say, one, getting over yourself because in order for something to progress, you have to just do it. And you can think about it all day, but
Hmm.
just thinking about things doesn't progress them. You have to put the steps behind it. So I would say I'm proud of myself for all the steps I've taken this year because it's a lot more than I ever thought. Like until you do something, you don't know how much goes into it. Like starting a
Yeah.
brand, like
Yeah.
manufacturers, screen printers, like the taxes, the legalities behind it, the designs. Like there's so many pieces, the content, this, that go into it, the website, like that you don't
Yeah.
know until you do it. So I would say for me is just putting daily action behind things is probably the hardest for me because whatever I know I need to do, I'm still struggling with this. What like the most important thing I need to do in a timely manner, my brain will like make it so hard for me to do that thing. Like it'll be top of my checklist and I'll get everything else done. And this will go on for like a month. Like I know I need to do it and I can't do it. So that's something I'm still working on because
Yeah.
it's like this I know a lot of people struggle with that. It's a normal human thing, but
What do you think
that's
it
been the
is?
hardest. I don't know. I want to say it's like a block fear based probably, but also I think it's just procrastination. Like even in college, like I would finish an assignment like last minute with
Oh yeah,
packing. I'll
100%.
like pack the last I'll like zip up my suitcase like the morning of.
Yeah.
Like I do that with a lot of things. So I don't know. It could
They
be
say
fear
that
based or it could just be my brain.
they say there's a creative element to it, that creative people do procrastinate stuff.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Like I wonder why that is.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's when I was doing improv,
Yeah.
obviously we don't map out the show. We have like the structure, but what's in the show, we have no idea. And so you just kind of go up and like we have to do like an hour's show. It needs to be funny and it needs to make sense, but there's no rehearsal. It's just going to be whatever comes out of people. And what I found was they had like a saying in it where they would say you're jumping out of the plane and building the parachute on the way down, of you got to get the ball rolling with it
Hmm.
and figure out what it is, and then you have the parachute to land. But
Totally.
you have to take the jump, right? And I think with the creativity and the procrastination, I think it's very obviously very situational. But for me, I found it is either one of two things. It's either I'm afraid to succeed because like I know that, if the company goes well and I got to hire people, I'm going to be in charge of all of these people's livelihoods.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you have those resources of like being in charge of your family and your community and being able to do all these different things, it's not that your life gets easier. You're going to get more responsibility because of it. And that can be
100%.
very daunting of being like, I don't want to be responsible for all these things because what if I mess up?
Right.
And knowing that you're going to mess up. Like, yeah, it's going to happen. But that's not an excuse to not go and do these things. Like you just, for lack of a better word, you kind of just you have to man up and you have to take on responsibility for yourself
Hmm.
and for the people around you. So that for me, sometimes it's that, but sometimes it's this feeling of like I just don't have something. Like
Yeah,
I need to produce something, but the thing I need to produce I don't have, and I don't know what it is.
interesting.
And talking about sort of feeling the moments of I've also, when I was in middle school, I wrote this short story called Bob the Goober for an
Okay,
assignment. And everyone
let's
thought it
hear
was
it.
it, it was very much like a fifth grade writing thing of I'm sure it was not as funny as I remember it being, but I thought just the word goober was really funny. And so I wrote this very fifth grade, creative writing assignment, whatever. And ever since when Harry Potter was coming out, I remember like listening to it and going, I don't like that direction. Like if I were writing it, I would have done this. And then realizing
Hmm.
like I can just write that. I can just pull up my like my computer and write the chapter how I want it to be. And
Yeah.
so I got into that. I was like, it'd be fun to write a fantasy book sometime, just like a kid's book, something
Hmm.
fun for kids. And probably started this in college, maybe a decade ago. And over like the last 10 years of like I'll write for a week and then I won't touch it for like 6 months because I just don't have anything. And
Hmm.
it's sort of like capturing that flow state of creativity of just you're
Yes,
sort of sitting there waiting for it to come. And sometimes it's you literally just sit there and nothing gets done, but you
totally.
create that environment. And I've found with like phones and all of these other distractions, it's so easy to get yourself knocked out of that.
I agree fully. I think there's so much content around us all the time
Right.
that um, the more creative I am and have been recently, it's because I'm spending less time consuming
Oh,
like other
100%.
content.
100%. I feel like, it happens up in Maine, but we lose power for like a week because of a bad snowstorm. I
Hmm.
get the best sleep of my life. You're worried like, what am I going to do? You fill the time with so many things and you get so much done in a week and
Yeah,
you're
our
10 to,
phones are terrible for us. Like it's ruining our lives.
it's so
It's
bad.
great. It's a blessing and a curse.
Right. Because it's how you promote your
Double-edged
brand,
sword.
how you connect with people, all these sort of things. But, some of the people that I know that have the most amount of followers, 250,000, 300,000, 500,000, million, whatever, that they use their phones the least
Hmm.
of
I
anybody.
agree.
And they find somebody who can use it for them and be like, if there's something comes up, let me know.
Yeah,
But you just don't have time to do all these things because it's so hard to get into that zone.
I totally agree. I think well, one thing you mentioned was like getting into flow state
Mm.
and all like most of this year, I think the reason why I felt so restricted with my brand was because I couldn't get into flow state with my health.
Yeah.
And then a few weekends ago, or it was like beginning of September, I went up to my ski condo for a weekend and just like in the mountains, peace by myself.
Mm.
And I was able to get into this flow state and I like felt so good. I had all these ideas coming out. And since then, I had like a massive shift where now I feel creative again. And I kind of shifted like my content in a sense where I felt like I was like posting to like prove something. And then I got back into this phase of like creating like my feed and like
Mm.
wanting it to like look a certain way, like for energy and visuals, like not just for
Mm.
like even on my main Instagram recently, I've had this shift where like instead of wanting to like post all these authentic posts and like captions to like prove something, I started just like creatively planning out my feed again, and that brings me joy. And I noticed like my posts have been doing better because
Yeah.
I'm not even saying much on them. I'm just like creating this like vibe. And same with my brand. Like I've gotten excited again about curating how I want my feed to look because that's
Yeah.
like art to me.
What do you think about like social media in general and like how has your interaction with it changed over time?
Um, Social media is something I've really had since like I want to say like fifth grade, seventh grade. So it's been a long time, which is crazy. I think, like I said, it's been a blessing and a curse. I think in a lot of ways it's taken a lot of life away from me when I think about how much I've spent on my phone. But
Hmm.
then also, social media, I've gotten so many blessings from. I have had so many opportunities from like travel. I've
Hmm.
met people traveling through social media, through things like TikTok, Instagram. And I really think on Instagram, like I have such a big community of people. Like when I post things, there are like I have so many people watching, and like I try to make my like even my stories, for example. Like I know when I post something, it's getting like a shit ton of views. So it's like I have to be careful with what I'm
Yeah.
posting because I'm someone who's very sensitive to energy, especially like going through this healing journey. Like
Yeah.
if I post something that's like too vulnerable or like showing what exactly what I'm doing sometimes, it can like affect my energy in a
Yeah.
way. So
Absolutely.
I'm very like careful and like I'll like post things not so much in real time anymore, and I'll try and make things like meaningful in some way that way because I know like each story is getting like eyes on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think also going through the health journey, and I know you've been through it too, it's like I don't really care anymore about inauthentic things. Like
Yeah.
in a way, that's a huge thing. A huge success of what I've been through is all I care about now is depth, realness, which I've
Yeah.
always been big on, but now I don't care to like be
Hmm.
fake. I care about health. I care about raw human connection.
Absolutely.
I'm not afraid to put my soul out there anymore because that's like all we have in this life.
Yeah, I mean, well, firstly, I don't have as many eyeballs on my stuff as you do.
Well, that's okay.
I keep a very small social media presence because I obviously don't want, I had a moment when I was in Chicago where I was trying to prove a point to somebody that like doing a certain thing in comedy wouldn't be as good as just doing like TikTok comedy. You could get more
Mhm.
eyeballs on you. And I made a few TikToks, and one of them, or a couple of them actually, went super viral. Where I woke up and I had like 2 million views overnight on one of the videos I'd made.
Wow.
And at first, I was like, let's go. Like, this is awesome. And then I started to see the comments, and they weren't even mean. But what freaked me out was there was people having conversations with their friends in my comments.
Ugh, that's the
And
worst.
they were like talking about like their own lives, and I was seeing all of it just in my feed just kept coming up as they would reply to each other's comments. And
Totally.
it, for whatever reason, it freaked me out of the idea of having so many people watching you. And I heard Dave Chappelle say one time that you can become famous, but you can't become unfamous. You can
I
become
agree.
infamous, but not unfamous.
It's a good
And,
point.
you know, I think about that all the time because I had a moment where, all of the people around me were pursuing social media and trying to get on SNL and trying to get on TV shows. And I had a moment where I was like, I think if I stick with this, I can do it. But
Hmm.
do I want to do it? Like, what do I want to get out of this?
Totally.
And, do I just want to be rich? Do I just want to be famous? Do I want to be both? Like, what is my goal here?
That's such a
And,
huge topic too. I
and
love this.
I met, I remember very clearly, I was at a club in Chicago, very, like, it was probably 1 in the morning. And I was there for, some shows and doing sort of stuff. And I was just talking to people backstage, hanging out. And I met like 4 or 5 people who I'd say they're in their mid 40s, late 40s. And they had gone through the ringer and they had been successful. And I met them and I got to see their lives like raw and
Hmm.
hear about like, how they don't see their kids or, they were on the road so much that it destroyed their marriage. And you sort of see like the dark side of it and you go like, so that's one outcome. And the other outcome is you're rich and famous. And you meet a couple people like that who their faces are on posters and you see them on TV and then you see their lives and you see all the things they have to deal with and you're like, man, like none of this is looking
Yeah.
great, and you see like obviously I'm sure you've come into this, like the politics of what goes into it. It's not always
Hmm.
just about raw talent or I know you've done some modeling of like who's, the best model. There's so much politics and these
Hmm.
relationships and so much of it's just so inauthentic. And
Yeah.
you have this moment where you get sick. And in those moments, none of those people reach out. You find who really cares about you, like who reached out
100%.
on its basis to like, do you need something? Like all this sort of thing. And, you know, I can look at my followers and go like, it's only a couple hundred, but
Hmm.
I know half of those people have my back.
Oh,
And
exactly. Yeah.
versus like I have friends who have, like I said, hundreds of thousands. And you don't know these people. Like, who are these people peeping in on your life? And these are some of the loneliest people I know.
That's funny you talked about like people being famous and everything and
Hmm.
how they don't necessarily their problems don't go away. They just have different problems.
Yeah.
And I was just having like a long conversation with someone about this like a week ago. I think it's really interesting because I love hearing the perspective of people who do have the money, who are famous, and they come online and they're like, it's not all it's cracked up to be. Like you hit a
Yeah.
point where you're like, okay, I have the money, now what? Or like even someone like Alex Sedlak, for example, like I
Yeah.
watch his videos a lot and he's like, okay, like I have the money, guys, but like that's not like the most important thing in life. Like then you
Yeah.
still have other challenges, you know? So I think just hearing people's perspectives who have the money, it's like you realize and the fame and the success, you realize that's not the most important thing in life either. So I think a lot of people just strive for success and money, but then it's like, okay, but you also have to realize once you get that, what does that mean for you? Like,
Yeah.
um, I think it can bring, if you want to do a lot of good and like share your message, it can be good. But you also realize, I think going through health issues also, like you said, makes you realize what's important in life. And
Yeah.
it's definitely done that for me. Like, I don't necessarily I don't necessarily crave fame. I do want to be known, but I want to be known and like have my own community for something good.
Yeah.
Um
Impactful.
Impactful. Yeah. I want to have it be like full of purpose and passion.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think your whole not that I was like I've always been a very humble person.
Hmm.
Um and people who like know me and are in my circle know that, but I think like going through these health issues like humbled me even more, like to my core, like because it strips you of everything, like you
Yes.
strips you of your looks. Like I didn't look like myself for the longest time. My personality was gone for months. Like I felt like I didn't feel like
Yeah.
myself. It really strips you of everything, so it makes you
Yeah.
go back to like, okay, what's important? Your health, your faith, family, friends, like love,
Yeah.
your soul mission, you know?
Yeah, it's, all the fame and money in the world doesn't guarantee is like it's not going to fix your chronic fatigue overnight. You know,
Totally.
like, I'm sure both of us have spent more money than we wish we could have
Oh
on
my
our
God,
health. And
thousands just on health.
I mean, I was doing NAD IVs monthly that were like $800 a pop. And,
How
you
did
know,
you feel with those?
for a week, like Superman. Like for a week, I was like, I'm back, baby. Like I feel 15 again. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think the big thing I noticed with them, aside, like I think there's some good evidence that they're helpful for skin cancer, which, as you can see by the lighting, I'm a prime suspect for skin cancer. But
What do you mean? You
um,
look super tan.
oh, I'm real tan. Oh yeah, I'm dark shade. But the IV, firstly, is like it takes a second. It's a few
Yeah.
hours, and some people will push it. There's some psychos out there that take like Zofran and they're like just shove it through. I don't know how they do that. That it feels hard on your stomach. Have you done it before?
Never. No, I've never done
It
like an IV with medicine.
really?
Really.
They're interesting. You're buzzing right afterwards. I think they're good for, not that I'm hungover all the time. I haven't had alcohol in a while, but hangovers, jet lag. If you're feeling sick and you got the
Hmm.
$100 to throw, it helps like shorten your illness a lot, you know.
Totally.
NAD is anecdotally, I got COVID like I don't know, again recently, and I got an NAD IV, gone the next day. Like I felt great.
Isn't it
And
crazy? I
yeah,
feel like once you like know about the health world, like there's no going back.
there's no going back. Well,
There's
I
no going
talked to you
back.
briefly about the hyperbaric chamber. Like,
Yeah.
you want to talk about feeling like invincible? You feel unbelievable after
Oh,
that.
I'm
And
sure.
I went into it just looking for like some energy, right? And my understanding of how it works is the pressure helps disperse the oxygen into your body a lot better, so it can get deeper into like your organs and help create new arteries and all these other things. This is probably a really butchered explanation, but the benefits of it are crazy, of like lengthening your telomeres. It was hard to find like something it didn't improve, but I just
Hmm.
went in for energy, thinking like if I can be a little bit more energetic, then maybe I can work an extra hour and I can,
Totally.
push through this, push through that. And I came out of it. I did 10 sessions in the soft shell. So it's like 1.3 pressure versus a lot of the studies were at like 2 to 3. So it's
Hmm.
not as high pressure, but you still get some of the benefits just to see where it's going. And I did one session a day for 5 days for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And most of them are like, you should do like 40 or so. A lot of the studies are like 40 sessions. Just from those 10, I came out and I was probably taking 5 or 6 supplements for my stomach.
Hmm.
I was taking seed, I was taking Akkermansia, I was taking probutyrate, I was taking digestive enzymes, I was taking what is it called? Like a CB powder that is
Hmm.
a little bit for SIBO, but it's basically immunoglobulins to help with your immune system. And
Totally.
I was having some issues with that of like immune exhaustion. I came out of that and I was able to get off everything except for seed. Like
Really.
my stomach felt unbelievable. I was like able to eat gluten a little bit and
And
I
how
was like
much does this chamber cost you?
so the chamber is like $80 to do it for an hour. It's way cheaper. I was able to do 10 sessions for the same price as one NAD IV.
Wow.
If you want to just buy one for yourself, like you can get a good one for like, not that it's cheap, but like for $12,000, you can
Yeah.
have one. And you can, the hard shells I think are more effective and
Hmm.
you can get more out of it. Those ones you're talking like 50 to like 100 grand plus, right? And
Interesting.
like part of my reason for starting a business was like I want one. Like I want my home like to have a
Yeah.
little section where I can have my red light chamber, my hyperbaric chamber, like have my my sauna,
Oh,
infrared sauna,
totally.
have these things. And I'm like, they ain't cheap, so I gotta go make some money.
Yeah.
And I'm sure like my wife's probably gonna want some things too. So I
That's
gotta be able to
funny because
afford those things.
I've seen a few places like and people who go to like these biohacking like
Yeah.
places with tons of different like chambers and this and
Yeah.
water and that. Um, and I've also seen there's like this healing center I saw someone post about, and it's like you spend 6 days in, I think it's in Sweden, and they give you like all the
Ooh,
supplements you need. They give you IVs, like to like
interesting.
heal. It's like a full-on healing thing. So it is
Interesting.
interesting, like once you get into the world, you see how much people are spending on
Mm.
these treatments, and it really makes you realize like health is wealth, you
Health
know?
is wealth. Yeah,
And so it's
it's
like when you have your health, you have everything in a
right.
sense.
Well, it just goes to show you like all these successful people, like when they have problems, like they have problems. It's the
Right.
same as you and me. And just because they have money doesn't guarantee they can fix all of them. Like it
Totally.
gives them the opportunity, and you want to earn the money so you have the opportunity that if something happens, God forbid, to you or your wife or your kids or your family, like you can step in and make sure they get the best stuff. But it doesn't
Totally.
guarantee anything. And, with the hyperbaric, like Brian Johnson, the live forever guy, the don't die guy. Have you ever seen him?
No, I haven't.
Oh, this guy, I'll send it to you. This
Okay.
if you want to talk about biohacking, he might be top of the list. I think he sold the company of his for like $1 billion, and he's decided
Hmm.
I'm gonna use the money to basically try everything and see what it does. And he has like a YouTube channel and he reports on it. But he talked about with hyperbaric that one of the benefits he noticed that he hadn't expected to notice was that he was having trouble getting Akkermansia to populate in his gut like long term. He was
Hmm.
taking it, but it wasn't like the bacteria wasn't sticking around. He had to continually supplement it. And that when he added in the hyperbaric, he got 1,000% increase in the population in his gut, and it was
Hmm.
able to last a lot longer. And my hypothesis, and I don't have science to prove this, but my hypothesis is that the increase in oxygen is able to feed a lot of the good bacteria and sort of exclude a lot of the bad bacteria.
Hmm.
Now, that may be oversimplified, but that's my guess of, I was able to take all of these things and they were really able to get a foothold that they can't get without the oxygen because, part of my issue is like my lungs aren't what I wish they would be. And so being able to get that extra oxygen in just you know like look what happens with like blood doping of like you go to the top of mountains and how good your cardiovascular system can get
Hmm.
operating on less oxygen. Then you come down here, you have more, and you can just take right off and your endurance is crazy. So it's
Yeah.
my favorite thing I've ever done.
Hmm. That's
100%.
interesting because I listened to this podcast a few weeks ago and this doctor was on it and he had I think he had something wrong with his spine or back or something that he had to
Hmm.
take antibiotics for and he really didn't want to do it because he's a doctor. Like he knows he's very into like functional medicine, all of that because he had to be on them for a month. But what he did was he went into like I think it was a chamber. There's all these things. There's like methylene blue, like all these things I
Have you
learned
tried that?
about. I've not tried that, but I've heard it's good for healing. I just don't think it would be good for SIBO. But I've heard
Yeah,
for things like Lyme and like other like illnesses, it can be effective.
it's interesting. I've tried it. It's
You've tried
interesting.
it?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I tried
We could
everything.
make a whole podcast about like
We could
things.
go. I made
Um,
one podcast that was just me mentioning everything, and it was like four
yeah,
hours.
I could
But
talk for hours. Yeah.
so with obviously, like I have a business and I'm working all the time, and one of the things we're talking about was like the autonomic system and de-stressing and
Hmm.
wanting to support that. And now I have like this little device that I can clip to my ear that gives me like a little electrical stim that helps calm my, yeah, it stimulates your vagus nerve through
Hmm.
here and
I've
helps like,
seen that. I've seen a
yeah.
product that does that.
I have one, and I will say that like my dizziness and my pot stuff gone tomorrow, like gone the next day.
Interesting.
But the other stuff takes a long time to regulate. Like they talk in 4 to 6 months of like continuous usage. And so what I was interested in is for you when you're dealing with these cortisol issues, what was the most helpful thing for you to take that you found
Yeah.
help regulate your system?
So I've bought hundreds of supplements this year for cortisol. There's so many things you can take. There's rhodiola, rosier, however you say it.
Mhm.
I should know. There's ashwagandha. There is what's the other one? Holy basil. I've found through myself, I'm not on any of them right now, but I found ashwagandha made me super angry. I've tried
Mm.
it like three different times in life, and I remember one time I only took it for a week the first time. I
Yeah.
was like lashing out for like a month. I was like, what is wrong with me? I'm never taking this again. I ended up trying it again at some point, like a couple of years ago, and it made me angry again. Like, even taking it a couple times, it was like in my system. But like I said, some people are fine on it.
Yeah.
The other two have worked good. I would say magnesium is like a superpower. I take magnesium. I take that every night. That helps with my digestion. I also have magnesium glycinate. I have taken like magnesium oxide before, but that was like
Mm,
because I needed it. So I would say those things, L-theanine is really good for calming
mm,
you. Those are the magnesiums and
awesome.
cortisol things I would recommend.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Listen, It was awesome to have you on. This was
It was
so
great.
awesome.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Give you an opportunity to plug everything you're doing here at the end.
Yeah, so I am the founder of my brand, Aspire to Inspire, and it's based off the idea that by changing your thoughts, you can change your life. My goal is to inspire people, and I also have clothing coming out, which is
Mm,
exciting. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Um, it's Aspire to Inspire with a one on my socials. And then my Instagram is josie.leblanc. Um, I also am a travel advisor, so if you ever
mm.
need a trip planned, a trip booked, I'm your girl. I work with Fora. And I also do freelance marketing. So if you need any content, social media management, brand strategy, all of that, I can also
Yeah.
help you. And if you ever need a model, I'm also your girl. So yeah,
Fantastic. Thank you so, so much for coming on.
thank you. It was nice chatting with you. I'm glad we
You
got to
too.
do this finally.
Absolutely. All right. Bye, everybody.